I make the dead look alive so the living can say goodbye. Most days that sentence feels less like a job description and more like a confession. The official title on my business card is restorative artist, but really I'm a janitor for what's left of people. I fix what time or trauma took. I glue, stitch, color, pose. When the family comes in and whispers, "He looks peaceful," that's me. That's my art. And lately, that art's the only thing that reminds me I still exist. I live above the funeral home, 2 rooms that smell like cedar polish and microwave dinners. Sometimes the hum of the prep room fridge leaks through the vent and mixes with the sound of passing trains. It's not unpleasant, just constant. Constant is safe. People call me a workaholic, but that's not true. I just don't have anywhere else to be. The dead don't text, don't cancel plans, don't judge. They just wait. Today's case came in before dawn. Male, late 30s, victim of a home invasion. No next of kin except a mother in hospice who requested an open casket if possible. That's the kind of phrase that ends up on my desk if possible. Translation: do the impossible, make my son look whole again. He's laid out on the stainless table when I walk in. I read the tag, Christopher Leary. The Y incision's neat. The coroner was careful. Still, the chest looks like someone tried to erase him and changed their mind halfway through. His jawline's perfect, though square, movie extra kind of perfect, with one tiny scar under the chin where the beard won't grow. I notice details like that. They matter later when the foundation dries wrong. The embalming room's quiet except for the extractor fan. Fluorescent light makes everything honest. I wash, set features, mix the arterial solution. The smell of formaldehyde clings behind the sinuses like burnt citrus. You never get used to it, you just forget to notice. While the pump hums, I talk to him. Habit, superstition, therapy, whatever. "Morning, Chris, we'll have you looking sharp soon." No answer, obviously, but the silence feels less heavy when you fill it with words. Hours pass in pieces. Aligned jaw, set eyelids, wax the torn cheek, powder, brush. When it's done, he looks like a man about to wake up late for work. I step back, stretch the stiffness out of my shoulders, and let the exhaustion wash over me. Every good restoration steals a bit of you. That's the trade. By the time I lock up, the sky's orange over the Ohio River and my phone's buzzing. Nee again. She's been my friend since high school, the loud one, bartender, heart of every room. She leaves a voicemail dripping sarcasm. "If you bail on my Halloween party, I swear I'll drag you out of that morgue myself. Costume required, corpse smell optional." I smile despite myself. Maybe she's right. Maybe I need to remember the world still spins outside the prep room. Saturday night, I trade my scrubs for a white lab coat, cheap costume, zero effort, and drive to Margie's Palace, the same dive everyone in town swears they've outgrown. Neon parrots, cigarette ghosts, and a jukebox stuck on Tom Petty. The floor sticks when you walk. Nee spots me instantly, dressed as some kind of glitter-covered bird. "About time, Dr. Frankenstein." She shouts, handing me a drink that tastes like lime and lighter fluid. Her joy's contagious. For a few minutes I almost feel alive. Then I see him, back booth, dim light. Dark hair, rugged face, the scar on the jaw, the man from my table. For half a second my brain grabs for logic, twin, mistake, trick of light. But the longer I stare, the less the world makes sense. He raises his glass at me. A toast. My stomach drops into winter. The bar noise fades to a heartbeat. I can't breathe, I can't not look. Nee's voice cuts through. "Evan, you good?" I mumble something about needing air and move, but he's already between me and the door. Close enough now that I can see the makeup, my makeup, cracked at the hairline, the powder caked around the ears. There's no pulse in that skin. "Relax," he says. The voice is dry, papery. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I back into the jukebox. My drink hits the floor. "You're dead," I whisper. He smiles, small, apologetic. "Not him, me. Think of it like a costume party." He gestures to his suit, to the face he's wearing. "See, you did good work." I'm shaking. People laugh around us, oblivious. Some Halloween prank they'll think if I scream, so I don't. He leans in, lowering his voice. "You have steady hands, Evan. That's rare. I need those hands again. Mine are wearing thin." "What are you?" He considers, eyes flicking like something behind them moves on its own. "Curious, hungry for experience. Where I'm from, curiosity isn't allowed, so I borrowed a body. But bodies decay, you understand. You keep them together, that's your gift. I can't help you. That's the wrong answer. His fingers close around my wrist, cold, hard, deliberate. But it's all right, you'll think it over, we'll talk soon. He lets go, turns, and melts into the crowd like the tide retreating. For a heartbeat, I consider chasing him. Instead, I stand there, pulse in my ears, trying to convince myself I imagined it. Maybe grief does this, makes ghosts of your own work. Back home, I scrub my hands until the sink runs pink from my skin. I keep expecting to smell rot, but there's only soap and metal. The mirror above the faucet shows a man who hasn't slept right in months. The phone buzzes again. "Nee, you alive?" I type "yeah" and stare at the word until it stops meaning anything. Outside, a siren wails somewhere near the river. Inside, the hum of the fridge from the prep room below climbs through the vents like a heartbeat that isn't mine. I tell myself tomorrow I'll go downstairs and check the logbook, prove to myself that Christopher Leary's still zipped in drawer 3. I'll prove it was a look-alike, a trick of drink and grief. But deep down, I already know what I'll find. Because when he gripped my wrist, the flesh felt wrong, cold, yes, but something moved under it. Something alive, wearing death like a coat. And the worst part wasn't the cold. The worst part was the way he said my name, like we'd been friends for years. The next morning I went to prove myself wrong. Drawer 3 was supposed to hold the man from the home invasion. Tag hash 24-938, Christopher Leary, except when I pulled the tray the bag was empty. The tag was still looped on the zipper like a punchline. I stood there too long, the hum of the refrigeration unit filling the silence. Then I checked the logbook. Released to family 02:45 a.m. My own initials signed beside it. That froze me more than the cold air ever could. I hadn't touched a pen last night. I was in a bar drinking fake margaritas and losing my mind. Yet there it was, my name, perfect cursive, a ghost of ink proving I'd let a body walk out. I told myself it was a prank. Maybe Gary, the night tech, wanted to mess with me. Maybe the ink smudge on the clipboard wasn't mine, even if the signature was. But Gary had called out sick 3 nights in a row, and I'd seen the man who should have been in that drawer lift a glass to me. That's when the lights flickered. The compressor thumped. The stainless trays rattled like teeth. I shut the drawer, locked it, and didn't look again. All day I felt eyes on me. Every client, every grieving family, every whisper down the hallway seemed sharper, like people could smell what I'd seen. Nee texted memes trying to pull me out of my head, but the screen felt like a mirror reflecting the wrong face back. When my shift ended, I drove home slow, scanning every sidewalk like something might be walking there wearing my work. By the time I parked outside my building, the Ohio dusk had turned the snow piles blue. My apartment window glowed a faint amber. A shadow moved across it. I froze on the curb, keys clenched tight. My rational brain said neighbor walking by. My body said predator already inside. The hallway smelled like cheap carpet cleaner and old mail. The elevator groaned its way up 3 floors. When the doors opened, I saw him waiting by my door, same suit, same scar, same impossible smile. "Evening, Evan." He said it like we'd scheduled this. I should have run. Instead, I heard myself ask, "How did you get in?" He tilted his head. "You signed me out, remember?" My throat went dry. "What do you want?" He lifted a small plastic bag from the grocery store down the street. Inside were makeup wedges, cotton rounds, even the same brand of Mortuary base I used. "You forgot a few things at work," he said. "Thought I'd return the favor." I didn't move. He gestured toward my apartment. "May I?" It wasn't a question. I stepped aside because fear sometimes looks like politeness. The door clicked shut behind him. He looked around like a realtor appraising square footage. Nice place, very contained. He sat at the kitchen table like last time, folded his hands and waited. The foundation around his neck had started to crack. Under it, the flesh had turned a soft gray like wet cardboard. "I need a touch-up," he said. "Nothing major, just the seams." My legs carried me to the closet where I kept my kit. Habit. That's the worst part about routine. It runs on autopilot even when you're terrified. I set the case down and opened it, the smell of powder and wax mixing with coffee gone cold. While I worked, he talked. "Do you ever think about how strange it is, embalming, filling a body with something it never had, pretending that's preservation? You replace blood with chemicals and call it care, but what you really do is delay rot." "Maybe," I muttered, brushing powder over a seam. "Sometimes delay's the best we can offer." He smiled at that, thin lips cracking like old paint. You understand then, that's all I want too, a little more time. Up close I could see movement under the skin again, small pulses traveling along the forearm like something swimming beneath ice. I forced my hand not to flinch. What are you really? I asked quietly. Hungry, he said, but not for food, for being. Every shell is a story to borrow. Every muscle remembers something. It's intoxicating. You killed him. He shrugged, an oddly human gesture. He was already empty, the heart beats, but no one home. You'd be surprised how many shells walk your streets like that. I sewed the collar seam closed. People aren't shells. He leaned closer, the smell of old flowers rolling off him. Aren't they? You wake, work, sleep, repeat. You patch faces for people who will never look at you. Tell me you haven't felt hollow. I didn't answer because he was right. When the last stitch was done, he flexed his hand, admiring the work. Perfect. You really are an artist. I want you gone, I said. Well, I will, but before that, he reached into his jacket pocket and slid something across the table, 2 paper tickets. Our town community players of Riverton. I thought you might like a show. I don't go out much. That's why you should. Life's short, trust me. He stood, adjusted his tie, and for the first time I noticed the fabric had blood stains on the inside seam. He reached out, brushed invisible lint from my shoulder. Keep those hands steady, Evan. You'll need them. Then he walked to the door, opened it, and paused. Oh, and don't worry about drawer 3. I took care of the paperwork. He left. The hallway swallowed him whole. I sat at the table until the sun crept up and turned the dusk gold. The tickets sat where he'd left them. The ink was still wet. When I finally picked them up, the paper felt warm, body temperature warm. I didn't go to work that day. I didn't sleep either. I just stared at those tickets, wondering if every person I've ever restored still remembers the warmth of their last heartbeat, and if maybe, somewhere out there, something else is wearing them, pretending to live better than I ever have. And the worst part, a tiny part of me wanted to go to that play, because at least someone had invited me. I didn't go back to work the next morning. I told my boss I was sick, which wasn't exactly a lie. My stomach hurt, my head spun, and every time I closed my eyes I saw the stitches on his face twitch like a grin. Still, avoiding the prep room didn't help. By nightfall my apartment felt smaller, like the walls were leaning closer to listen. The 2 theater tickets sat on my counter, face up under the kitchen light. Our town community players of Riverton, Saturday 7:00 p.m. I picked them up that morning intending to throw them out, but my fingers wouldn't let go. I told myself I'd burn them later. When I finally clocked back in, the smell of disinfectant hit like guilt. The morning schedule was packed, 2 closed casket preps, 1 open. The open one belonged to a 24-year-old girl named Cassidy Monroe. Car crash. Her mother was inconsolable, insisting she look peaceful for the service. Open casket, she'd said. No daughter of mine's being hidden away. Open casket means extra hours. It means makeup thick enough to fool grief. It also means rules. We don't tell families, but we have a list taped inside the supply cabinet. Open casket rules. 1. Never promise perfection. 2. Hide damage where the eyes won't fall. 3. Don't let the living see your pity. And the unofficial 4th rule, never let the dead look back. Cassidy had been through a windshield. The left side of her face was shredded. As I cleaned the glass from her hair, I thought about how Christopher had looked when I found him, jaw slack, skin smooth, eyes empty. I'd fixed him, made him human again. Maybe that's why it had chosen him. My hands had invited it. Halfway through the restoration, the door creaked open. Morning, Evan. It was Ray, one of our attendants. You got a visitor. I looked up. Now's not a good time. Guy said it's urgent, real polite about it. Every cell in my body went cold. What's his name? Ray frowned, didn't say. Tall dude, dark hair, looks like a salesman. I swallowed hard. Tell him to wait outside. Ray nodded and left. I heard the lobby door shut. Then silence. I stared at Cassidy's ruined face. You don't deserve this, I whispered. None of us do. When I turned back to my tools, the scalpel had rolled off the tray and landed on the floor. A simple thing, probably gravity. Still, I didn't pick it up. Lunch came and went. The lobby stayed quiet. By 3, I convinced myself I'd imagined everything. The mind protects itself however it can. Until I saw the reflection. I was airbrushing Cassidy's cheek, blending the wax under the fluorescent light when the mirror on the far wall caught movement behind me. A man, standing in the doorway. I turned fast, no one there, but the mirror still showed him, half seen in the glass, smiling from behind my shoulder. A trick of light, maybe or maybe not. Either way, I dropped the airbrush. The compressor hissed like a sigh. That night I closed the prep room early, locked every door, triple-checked the coolers. On my way out, I noticed the chapel lights were on. The open casket viewing had already started for another family. Through the glass wall, I saw mourners in dark suits, tissues in hand. A priest muttered prayers over the body of an elderly man I'd prepared earlier in the week. Mr. Dalton peaceful, composed. Then across the room, a shape moved between the pews, tall, familiar. I pressed a hand to the glass. It was him, Christopher, or the thing inside him, standing in the corner near the organ. He wasn't wearing the suit anymore, just dark clothes, damp with something that looked too much like decay. No one else saw him. He stared straight at me and mouthed something I couldn't hear. I leaned closer, my breath fogging the glass. "What do you want?" The lips moved again. "Beautiful work." Then he smiled wider and gestured toward the casket. Mr. Dalton's hand twitched. It was small, barely a movement, but it happened. The kind of spasm that could be muscle reflex, except the eyes opened next. Not wide, not all the way, just enough to catch the light. And I saw the glint, milky, wet, alive. A woman screamed. The priest stumbled backward, dropping his prayer book. People surged toward the doors. In the chaos, I looked back at the corner. He was gone. The police came, asked questions, made notes. "Sometimes nerves fire post-mortem," the detective said. "Doesn't mean resurrection." I nodded, but I knew nerves don't make the dead look at you. I stayed late cleaning the chapel. Candle wax on carpet. Spilled holy water pooling like glass. I kept glancing toward the back pews, half expecting him to rise from the shadows again. Instead, I found something on the organ bench, a small envelope with my name in careful handwriting. Inside was a note written in perfect cursive. "Don't be afraid, Evan. The living only borrow their bodies too. I just do it better." And below the writing, 2 smudges of theater ticket stubs. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I blinked, I saw eyes opening in the dark. At dawn, he called. "Jesus, Evan, are you watching the news?" I hadn't turned on the TV. Read the headline out loud. "Funeral home panic, witnesses claim corpse moved during service." My chest tightened. "They can't blame us, the body was—" "Evan," she interrupted, voice trembling. "The article says the body was missing when police came back this morning." I froze. "Missing? Drawer 3 all over again," she said softly. "What the hell's going on over there?" Outside, the sun was climbing pale over the frozen river. For the first time, I noticed small, wet footprints on the hallway floor, starting at my apartment door leading toward the elevator. I followed them down. They stopped in front of the building's glass entryway where condensation fogged the inside of the door. A message had been drawn with a finger, the letters uneven but unmistakable. "See you Saturday." I didn't go to work that day. Didn't answer Nee's calls. Didn't throw away the tickets. I just sat on the couch, staring at them, feeling the air turn heavy. Because somewhere out there, the thing wearing Christopher, or wearing Dalton, or maybe wearing both, was waiting for me to join it in a theater full of people. And I realized something that made my stomach twist. I couldn't tell if I was terrified of what it might do, or of what I might see if I actually went. 3 days passed before the phone rang again. By then, I'd almost convinced myself the footprints were a hallucination, stress, exhaustion, maybe a side effect of breathing too much formaldehyde for too many years. But when the ringtone echoed through the apartment at 2:13 a.m., my blood turned to ice. Nobody calls me at that hour, not unless it's work or death or both. "Evan Hale," I said, my voice dry, static. Then a breath. A soft, wet exhale like someone holding the receiver too close to their mouth. "Son," a man's voice said, quiet and gravelly. My throat closed. It wasn't possible, it was his voice, my father's. He died 3 years ago, 2 towns over, buried under the big oak near St. Andrew's Cemetery. I'd done his own restoration myself. I'd set his jaw, closed his eyes, combed his hair the way Mom always liked. I knew he was gone. "Dad," the voice chuckled, low, affectionate, familiar. "I'm proud of you, son. You always had steady hands." The line went dead. I didn't sleep after that. I sat in the dark with the phone on the table, staring at it like it was a loaded gun. By dawn, I had a theory. A desperate, stupid theory. Maybe Christopher, or whatever he was, could mimic the dead. Maybe he'd found some way to reach through wires and frequencies, wearing voices the way he wore flesh. Still, part of me wanted to believe it was my father, the part that still kept his toolbox under my sink. When I got to work, the funeral home was half frozen from the cold snap. Breath fogged in front of my face as I walked the hallway. Ray had called out again, and the owner was in the office pretending to handle paperwork. Cassidy's family had requested one final viewing before burial. I went to check on her body. She looked peaceful, mostly because I'd forced her to. The wax had hardened smooth, the sutures invisible beneath the cosmetics. For a second I felt almost proud. Then her mouth moved, not wide, just a twitch like the start of a word. I froze. The embalming pump was silent, the room dead still, but the lips parted and a whisper slipped out, breathless, dry as dust. "Evan." I stumbled backward. My hand hit the metal tray, sending instruments clattering across tile. Her eyes remained closed, her face serene, but I knew I hadn't imagined it. I ran to the break room and splashed cold water on my face. The mirror above the sink showed a man who looked 10 years older than yesterday. When I finally walked back into the prep room, Cassidy was still. The only thing out of place was the phone on the counter blinking, a missed call. The display read, "Private number 2:13 a.m. I didn't answer. I just stared at it until the screen dimmed. At lunch, I sat alone in the hearse bay. The cement floor radiated chill through my shoes. Outside, snow flurries drifted sideways across the parking lot. I told myself to call Nee to tell someone, but how do you explain this? "Hey, my dead clients are making phone calls now." Instead, I scrolled my contacts until I found hers. My thumb hovered over the button. Then the phone buzzed, a new voicemail. "Unknown number." Against all sense, I pressed play. "Hey, Evan, it's me. I just wanted to hear your voice." It was my father again. Then the static thickened and another voice cut in beneath it, softer, feminine, strained. "He's wearing me, help me." Cassidy's voice. The message ended with a click. I threw the phone across the room. It hit the metal wall with a hollow clang and fell, screen cracked but still glowing. The timestamp read 2:13 a.m. I left early, didn't clock out, didn't care. The roads were slick with slush, the sky bruised purple. By the time I reached my apartment, it was full dark. My voicemail icon blinked again. Another message. I pressed play on speaker, heart hammering. "Evan, you shouldn't ignore me." It was Christopher's voice now, smooth, calm, wrong. "You're getting good at this, you know, restoring, listening. You fixed her perfectly. I had to try the voice myself. People trust familiar sounds, don't you?" A pause. "Come to the theater, Evan, Saturday. Seat 12, row D. Bring your phone. We'll watch together." Then silence. Saturday came fast. I didn't eat, didn't shower. Just watched the clock bleed hours into each other. By evening, the streets were quiet, snow piled against the curbs. Against every instinct, I drove downtown. The Riverton Community Playhouse sat on Main Street, its sign flickering like a dying heart monitor. A banner flapped in the cold, "Our town one weekend only." I told myself I just wanted to see if he was there, to prove it was a trick. Maybe if I faced it, it would stop. Inside, the lobby smelled like popcorn and floor polish. Families laughed, couples took selfies under the marquee. Normal, so normal it hurt. The usher smiled at me. "Seat 12, row D, right down the middle." My stomach twisted. The seat had been waiting for me. When the lights dimmed, I felt it, a presence in the seat beside mine, the faint scent of lilies in decay. I didn't look, I couldn't. Onstage, actors in vintage costumes talked about small-town life and the passage of time. Their voices echoed off the walls, overlapping with whispers that weren't part of the script. At first I thought it was the acoustics, but then I heard my name, faint, layered beneath the dialogue. "Evan, Evan, steady hands." I turned my head. The seat beside me was empty, but the whisper came from the phone in my pocket, vibrating against my leg. The screen lit up, "Incoming call, private number." The actors froze mid-scene. The lights flickered. The audience gasped as if someone had pulled the oxygen from the room. I pressed decline. The call ended and the figure appeared at the end of the row, Christopher, or what was left of him. The makeup gone, the flesh beneath crawling like something alive beneath a sheet of wax. His mouth opened in a mockery of a smile. "You came," he rasped. The audience didn't react, they couldn't see him. He stepped closer, whispering loud enough for only me to hear. "You fixed her, Evan, now fix me again." I stood, stumbled toward the aisle. My knees hit the seat in front of me, people shushed. Someone laughed, thinking I was drunk. I looked back once. He was sitting in my seat now, perfectly still, smiling up at the stage as if nothing had happened. I ran into the snow, gasping, my breath fogging the night air. The marquee flickered overhead, our town blinking into half-darkness. I pulled out my phone, another voicemail notification. 2:13 a.m. From my own number. I hit play. "It's okay, Evan," my voice said. "I'll handle the next one." Saturday came like a sentence being carried out. All week I told myself I wouldn't go. I'd ignored the messages, turned off my phone, even buried the tickets under a stack of unpaid bills. But by 6:30 that evening I was in my car, engine idling, staring at my own reflection in the windshield. Maybe it wasn't curiosity. Maybe it was guilt. Whatever it was, it drove. The Riverton Community Playhouse sat at the end of Main Street, squeezed between a pawn shop and a diner that hadn't changed since 1964. The marquee bulbs blinked weakly in the snowlight. Our town final matinee today, 7 p.m. The parking lot was half empty. I could have turned around, but I didn't. Inside, the usher recognized me. "Back again?" he asked. "Guess so," I said. He smiled like we shared a secret and handed me my stub, row D/seat 12. The theater smelled like dust and lemon cleaner. Faded red velvet seats. An American flag draped above the stage, left over from some veteran memorial last month. Ordinary, comforting, human. The lights dimmed. The audience quieted to a hush thick enough to hear hearts beating. Then the curtain rose. On stage, the actors shuffled through our town, a play about life, death, and everything people ignore between them. I'd seen it in high school. It felt different now. Every line about time passing landed like a confession. Halfway through Act I, the seat beside me creaked. I didn't look, not right away, but the smell gave him away. Roses wilted. The borrower leaned close enough for his breath to chill my ear. "You made it," he whispered. "I was afraid you'd miss the show." I kept my eyes forward. "Why me?" "You notice the seams," he said. "Most people look away. You fix what's broken. That's a rare kindness." "I fix the dead," I said. "Same thing." He chuckled softly and the sound crawled down my spine. The audience didn't react. Nobody saw him. The man on stage kept speaking about morning milk deliveries and church bells, while beside me, something that shouldn't be tapped its fingers to the rhythm of life. At intermission, I escaped to the lobby. The vending machine hummed like a nervous insect. My reflection in its glass looked hollow. He followed, of course, always polite, always patient. "You hear them?" he asked. "Who?" "The voices under the dialogue, the ones that don't know they're dead yet." I stared at him. The makeup was fresh, too fresh. He'd repaired himself since last time. The collar hid most of the seam, but at the temple the foundation had begun to crack again, revealing flesh the color of candle wax. "What are you?" I asked. "Really?" He smiled, and for once it didn't reach his eyes. "Curious, hungry, same as you." He reached out, tracing a gloved finger down the poster for our town. "You live your whole life embalming moments, pretending they don't rot. I just use different tools. Stop calling what you do living." He leaned closer. "You think you're different. You patch, paint, and pose bodies so the living can feel something." I patch, paint, and pose bodies so I can. He wasn't wrong. That was the worst part. When the second act began, I almost left. Almost. But something kept me glued to that seat. A compulsion, or maybe the understanding that running never helped. He sat beside me again, whispering little nothings as the play moved through marriage, time, and funerals. His voice blended with the actors, echoing phrases that weren't in the script. Then during the cemetery scene, he leaned in and whispered, "Watch closely." On stage, the actress playing Emily lay still in her coffin. The stage lights dimmed to blue, but she twitched. Her head turned toward the audience. Her eyes opened, glassy, unfocused, then locked on me. The audience gasped, thinking it was theater, improvisation, a haunting flourish for closing night. I knew better. The borrower sighed happily beside me. "Beautiful, isn't it? She's so fresh. Barely a day." I gripped the armrest. "You took her." "She was waiting," he said. "You should have seen her in the prep room whispering your name. I gave her a voice." "You're a parasite," he nodded. "Everything alive is." The actors froze mid-scene as if someone had cut the strings. A sound rolled through the theater, low, wet like wind through meat. The lights flickered. The audience murmured nervously. On stage, Emily sat up. Her dress shimmered with stage dust. A dark line ran along her collar where the makeup ended. She opened her mouth, and the microphone screeched. The words that came weren't scripted. Evan. Every head turned toward me. I bolted for the aisle, stumbling over knees and coats. People shouted, half in laughter, half in alarm. Someone thought it was performance art. Behind me, she screamed my name again, a sound both human and wrong, like two voices speaking at once. I hit the lobby doors and ran out into the night. Snow fell in thick, silent sheets. The air smelled of ozone. From inside, the crowd's noise blurred into muffled confusion. Then quiet. I turned back. Through the lobby window, I saw the borrower standing at the glass, one pale hand pressed against it, head tilted like a curious child. His lips moved, fogging the pain. I read the words next time backstage. I didn't drive straight home. I circled the block 6 times before pulling over behind the diner. My hands shook on the steering wheel. The radio picked up only static. I switched it off. When I finally dared to look at my reflection in the rearview mirror, my face looked foreign, eyes too dark, skin too pale. For a moment, I thought I saw movement beneath my own cheek, like something small and patient shifting under the surface. I touched it. Nothing, just pulse and panic. Back in the apartment, I found a new envelope slipped under my door. Inside, a single photograph, the stage from tonight, the actress standing alive or whatever passed for it. And beside her, blurred but unmistakable, me sitting in row D smiling, scrawled on the back in looping handwriting. You looked perfect under the lights. See, that night, I dreamed of the matinee. The seats filled with faces I'd prepared over the years, every corpse I'd ever touched. They clapped politely while I stood center stage, wearing a suit that didn't fit. From the wings, the borrower whispered, "Take a bow." When I woke, the applause was still echoing somewhere deep in my ears, faint but rhythmic, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to me. The storm hit on a Thursday. Heavy snow all morning, sleet by noon, then rain that froze again before it could drain away. By sunset, the Ohio River had overflowed its banks, and the town sirens were howling like dogs. The funeral home's basement always flooded when the power went out. We called the prep room sink the flood table, because that's where the water found its way first. I'd patched the drain a dozen times, but death has a way of seeping through cracks. That night I was the only one on duty. Everyone else had gone home before the roads iced. The owner told me to babysit the generators and left without waiting for an answer. By 9:30, the lights flickered, the HVAC sighed its last breath, and silence swallowed the hall. Then the phone rang. Riverton Funeral, I answered, static. Then a voice, faint and calm. New arrival, back door. Click. The delivery bay light was out, but when I opened the door, there was a gurney parked in the rain. The body bag glistened like oil. No hearse in sight. Just tire tracks dissolving into the street runoff. I wheeled the gurney inside, water dripping a trail behind me. The tag on the zipper read Jane DOE, found near River Lock 7. The paperwork was half smeared, no signature. When I unzipped the bag, a woman's face stared up, early 30s, long blonde hair tangled with river silt. Her skin was pale blue, lips split, eyes half open. Something about the stillness felt wrong, not peaceful, expectant. I started the generator, fluorescence buzzed back to life. The water pump kicked in, coughing air through the pipes. Then the sink gurgled and kept gurgling, a low, wet laughter of drains. I prepped the table, trying to focus. Work keeps panic at bay. Step 1, arterial injection. Step 2, cavity aspiration. Step 3, cosmetic restoration. Mechanical routine. My hands did what my mind couldn't, but the flood table filled faster than the pump could empty it. Dirty water climbed past my boots, swirling gray with chemicals and rain. I shut the valve, cursed, and bent to adjust the hose. That's when the water moved, not the normal current of a leak, something pushing back. A shape beneath the surface, gliding. The reflection of overhead lights bent around it like heat haze. A voice drifted up through the water. Soft, familiar, Evan's steady hands. I stumbled backward, slamming into the cabinet. The voice echoed from the drain, from the sink, from everywhere. You left me in the snow. Christopher, the borrower, the woman on the table, twitched. At first I thought it was the generator vibration. Then her fingers flexed, water dripping from the nails. Her head turned slightly toward me. A single bubble escaped her lips, followed by a whisper that wasn't hers. "This one's fresh, you'll like her." I grabbed the arterial clamp like a weapon. "Stay down," I said, like it would matter. The overhead light flickered, dimmed, came back. Her eyes opened, cloudy, colorless, alive. "Help me," she croaked. But the mouth kept moving after the words stopped, skin stretching, cracking. The voice changed, layered, his voice bleeding through hers. "Don't waste her, Evan. Good bones, soft skin." I backed toward the breaker panel. My hand found the emergency injector, syringe filled with concentrated formaldehyde, usually used for deep tissue preservation. Lethal even to the dead. He laughed through her throat. "Always with the chemicals, delay rot, delay truth." Her body arched, joints popping, something crawling beneath the skin like cables tightening. The sutures along her chest split open, not from decay but from inside out. A pale limb, thin, jointed, bristled, slid out through the incision, dripping embalming fluid. That was enough. I lunged forward and plunged the syringe straight into the joint. The hiss of liquid injection mixed with a scream that shook the tiles. The leg recoiled, slamming against the tray, knocking instruments to the floor. The flood table erupted, water thrashing like it had lungs. The generator coughed, the lights blew out. Darkness. Only the red glow of the exit sign lit the room. The air stank of ammonia and rot. Something scuttled across the ceiling, fast, wet. "You can't kill a need," the voice rasped. "Only feed it." I grabbed the flashlight from the cabinet and flicked it on. The beam caught the woman half off the table, suspended by thin, insect-like legs sprouting from her back. Her eyes rolled white, her mouth worked soundlessly. Behind her, the shape of him, Christopher's face stretched over the shifting mass, clung to the wall like a spider wearing human skin. "Get out," I shouted. He tilted his head. "I'm trying to, help me shed." The legs tore free from the woman's body with a wet snap, leaving her to collapse on the tile. The thing beneath slithered toward me, its outline vaguely human but wrong, too many knees, too much silence between movements. I stumbled into the corner, found the breaker handle and yanked it down. Sparks spat from the flooded outlet. Electric light flared blue-white across the room. The water ignited in shimmering arcs, racing along the surface like veins of lightning. The creature convulsed, limbs seizing, its body half solid, half shadow. The smell of burning resin filled the air. Then, as quickly as it began, it was gone, collapsing inward like smoke sucked down a drain. When the main power returned hours later, the storm had passed. The prep room looked normal again. The sink gurgled weakly, the table gleamed. Only the scorch marks on the tile proved anything had happened. The Jane Doe was still there, motionless now, empty again. The incision lay open, perfectly ordinary. No trace of extra limbs, no sound but the slow drip of water. I documented everything in the logbook. Cause of death, drowning, notes, significant post-mortem artifact, muscle contractions due to electrical surge. Lies, of course, necessary ones. When I finished mopping, I caught my reflection in the stainless counter. My eyes looked darker, older, and for the briefest second, I thought I saw movement beneath my cheek again, tiny, deliberate waiting. I left the funeral home at dawn. The floodwater outside had frozen into sheets of glass, reflecting the rising sun in fractured pieces. My phone buzzed, unknown number. The message was short. "Beautiful light today, perfect for new skin. See." I turned the phone off and dropped it in the river. But as I watched it sink beneath the ice, a thought I didn't want crept in, quiet, treacherous. Maybe he was right. Maybe we're all just borrowing something for a while. Human body weighs less after death. I used to think it was just science, fluid loss, muscle slack, gas exchange. But lately I've started to wonder if it's because something really leaves, something we can't measure. And if that's true, maybe something else can crawl in. The funeral home reopened Monday. No one mentioned the storm. No one mentioned the missing Jane Doe paperwork either. The owner just shrugged when I asked. "County lost half the files in the flood," he said. "Start fresh. Start fresh." That's what Christopher wanted too. I told myself I'd quit, turn in my keys, find another job, anything that didn't smell like disinfectant and loss. But I didn't. I came back because where else would I go? The prep room smelled wrong now, not rot, sweeter, like citrus and something burning. I tried airing it out, but the smell clung to the vents. Every time I turned on the light, I half expected to see the drain breathing again. By Wednesday, I hadn't slept in 3 nights. Every sound felt amplified, the hum of the cooler, the tick of the clock, the whisper of air through the ducts. Even my own heartbeat felt too loud. I started hearing another one underneath it, a second pulse, steady and out of sync with mine. At first I thought it was tinnitus, Then it started speaking. Steady hands, don't stop now. Sometimes it sounded like Christopher, sometimes like my father, sometimes like me. The body that came in that morning was a John Doe, no ID, no history, found frozen near the river bridge. Late 40s, heavyset, clean fingernails, wedding band still on. He could have been anybody. While I worked, I caught myself humming a tune I didn't recognize. Low and rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat set to melody. My lips moved on their own. The lyrics didn't sound human. "Stop," I whispered, but my voice came out doubled, 2 notes overlapping. I dropped the scalpel. It hit the floor, clattering across tile before vanishing under the table. I bent down to grab it, and that's when I saw it. Movement, under the skin of my own wrist. Tiny, deliberate, like something testing the walls of its new house. I stumbled into the restroom and rolled up my sleeve under the harsh, fluorescent light. The veins looked darker, almost raised. My pulse fluttered too fast. I pressed my fingers against it. A ripple answered back, not inside the vein but beneath it, like a bubble of air trapped under paint. I grabbed the scalpel. My hand shook, but I made the cut anyway, shallow, surgical. Blood welled up dark and thick. Then something else came with it. A filament, hair-thin, colorless, moving. It recoiled from the air, curling like a worm. I slammed a paper towel over the wound and staggered back. My breath came fast. The voice whispered again, calm and patient. "You're perfect, Evan. Don't waste it. You're already wearing something beautiful." That night I drove aimlessly through Riverton, rain streaking the windshield like veins. Every storefront looked like a reflection of another life. Bars, diners, the pawnshop glowing faint under its flickering sign. I parked outside Margie's Palace. Nee's car was there, red Honda dented bumper, same stupid bumper sticker. My other ride is anxiety. Inside, the bar smelled like bourbon and sanitizer. A game played low on the TV. She saw me before I saw her. "Jesus, Hale," she said, sliding me a glass of water. "You look like you've been living in a morgue." "Close enough," I said. She studied me. "You sleeping?" "Trying." She nodded. "That's not the same." We sat there for a while, letting the silence do the talking. The jukebox played Tom Petty again, always Tom Petty. The normalcy of it almost hurt. Then she said, "You gonna tell me why you keep looking at your hands like they're ticking bombs?" I looked down. The gauze on my wrist had soaked through. I hadn't even felt it. "Just a cut," I said. "Right," she said flatly, "and I'm the Pope." Her voice cracked something in me. I almost told her everything about the borrower, about the phone calls, the theater, the flood, but then I saw movement in the mirror behind her. A man at the far end of the bar, smiling into his drink, scar on his jaw. He raised his glass. I stood so fast the stool clattered. "I have to go." "Evan," she started, but I was already out the door. The street was empty. No sign of him, just my reflection in the puddles, pale, shaking, unfamiliar. I pressed my wrist. It throbbed under the gauze, warm and alive. The voice whispered again. "He's not here, I am." I don't remember driving home. I remember the headlights slicing through rain, the smell of wet asphalt, and the whisper counting with the wipers. 1-2, 1-2, steady hands, steady. When I finally parked, I was crying, not fear, not anger, just exhaustion that felt like drowning. Inside, the apartment lights flickered once and went out. Only my reflection in the window remained. And in that reflection, something behind me moved. I spun around. Christopher stood in the doorway of the kitchen, smiling, not decayed this time, whole, polished, the perfect suit, perfect posture. His eyes glowed faintly amber in the dark. "You let me in," he said. "No," I whispered. "You forced your way." He shook his head gently. "You invited me the moment you envied me. You wanted to feel alive. Now we share that feeling. I'm not like you, not yet." He stepped closer. I backed away until I hit the counter. "Get out," I said. "Get out of my house." He smiled wider. "This is my house. You're just renting space." I grabbed the syringe from the drawer, one of the leftover formaldehyde vials I'd hidden after the flood. The label peeled under my thumb. My pulse thundered. He didn't move. "You wouldn't watch me." I jammed the syringe into my own forearm and pushed the plunger. The burn hit like ice and fire at once. My knees buckled. I screamed through clenched teeth. He staggered back, clutching his chest as if he felt it too. His face warped, seams splitting, eyes flickering between human and insect. "Stop," he rasped. "You'll kill us." "That's the idea." He lunged, but I was faster. I hit the breaker switch on the wall. The apartment plunged into darkness. When I opened my eyes again, he was gone. Morning light bled through the blinds. My arm ached like hell, but I was alive. The syringe lay empty on the floor. For the first time in days, silence. Real silence. No whispers, no second heartbeat. Then my phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. One new message. I almost deleted it unread, but curiosity won. Nice try. You only slowed me down. See you soon. See. The message timestamped 2:13 a.m. I sat there staring at the screen until dawn broke across the river, golden and cold. My reflection in the window looked hollow. My lips moved without meaning to. Steady hands, I whispered. Don't stop now. And deep under the skin of my wrist, something small twitched and smiled. The first time I saw her, I thought it was a hallucination. Maybe it was for a second, until she spoke. 3 days had passed since the injection. The wound on my arm had healed too fast, too clean. The skin there felt strange, too smooth, like healed wax. Every time I touched it, the surface flexed beneath my finger as though something inside shifted slightly to avoid the pressure. I stopped touching it. The mortuary smelled worse that week. The air conditioning was out again and the generator coughed black smoke every few hours. It felt like the whole building was exhaling rot. The walls sweated even in the cold. I was alone embalming another John Doe when I heard someone humming in the hall, a tune I knew but couldn't name. Low, soft female. When I turned, she was standing in the doorway. She wore a hoodie too big for her, jeans frayed at the knees and no shoes. Her hair was blonde, almost white. Wet. She'd come straight out of the rain. Her eyes, I recognized them before anything else. That same glassy calm I'd seen on the slab the night of the flood. Jane Doe, but she smiled like an old friend. Hey, Evan. The scalpel nearly slipped from my hand. No, you're dead, she interrupted softly, tilting her head. We've got to stop using that word, it's not accurate. I backed toward the wall. Christopher, not anymore. She touched her chest lightly. Janine, that's what the tag said, remember. I shook my head. You're not her, you're borrowing, she said. Just borrowing. She stepped closer. Her bare feet left faint wet prints on the tile, not blood, not water, something in between. I tried to speak but couldn't. She was smaller than Christopher, quieter, the same wrongness but gentler somehow. Her voice carried less threat, more sadness. I'm sorry for the mess at the flood, she said. It's always rough switching houses. Some rooms collapse faster than others. What do you want from me? I asked. Her smile faltered. You think I'm here to hurt you again? Aren't you? She shook her head. No, I'm here to make things right. She looked around the prep room, her eyes scanning the stainless tables, the cabinets of tools, the labeled jars of powders and paints. You spend all your time trying to make them look alive, she murmured. It's kind in a way, but it's lonely work. You give them peace and nobody gives you any. I don't want your pity. Not pity, she said, understanding. She reached out and touched the light switch. The bulbs above flickered, then dimmed to a soft amber glow. Mortuary had never looked warmer. It almost felt like candlelight. Her voice lowered. You know what's strange, Evan? When I wear them, I can feel everything they remembered. Their fears, their warmth, their love. For a while I get to be that, but it fades too fast. I need someone to anchor it. Anchor it how? Her eyes lifted to mine. Through you. I turned away. You think I'm going to help you again? I don't think, she said. I know, because you already did. Was right, and that was the worst part. I had helped. Not because I wanted to, but because somewhere deep down a part of me had felt sorry for him. And maybe that same part was still alive, still curious. I took a step toward her. What are you really, Janine? She smiled softly. A mistake that learned how to live. Her reflection in the steel counter shimmered like oil. The skin on her arms rippled slightly as if breathing. You fixed my first house, she said, and now you're fixing this one too. I frowned. I haven't touched you. She reached out and placed her cold palm over my wrist over the healed wound. The flesh under her hand stirred. My pulse fluttered once, then doubled. You already started, she whispered. When you bled, for a long moment neither of us spoke. Then she stepped back and looked down at the John Doe on the table. Who's he? Homeless man, no family, found in a park. Perfect, she said. For what? For practice. Before I could stop her, she pressed both hands against the man's chest. Her fingers sank through skin like it was water. His body twitched once, then twice, as the veins under his neck turned black. I yanked her away. Stop, stop, she gasped, staggering as if the effort had hurt her too. I'm sorry, she whispered. It's hard not to reach. The John Doe's eyes opened, empty, but aware. I grabbed the nearest syringe and stabbed it into his arm. The chemical hissed and his body went still again. The air smelled of iron and alcohol. When I looked back, Janine was crying. Not real tears, clear fluid like embalming gel. You don't understand, she said softly. I can't help what I am. Then stop pretending you're anything else. She looked at me for a long time, then smiled, small, human, tired. You think I enjoy this, wearing people, watching them fade from the inside out. It's not joy, Evan, it's survival, the same thing you do every day but slower. You feed on them. You feed on them too, she said. You just call it compassion. That hit harder than it should have, maybe because it wasn't entirely wrong. She turned toward the exit, pulling her hood up. I'll leave for now, she said, but you'll call for me again, you'll need me when you start to fade. I'm not fading, I said. I'm still me. She paused at the door, half-shadowed in the amber light. That's what all of us say right before the next breath isn't ours anymore. Then she was gone. I locked every door that night, disinfected the whole prep room until my hands cracked. But no bleach could erase the smell she left behind, faint citrus, faint smoke, faint human. Before I went home, I checked the John Doe one last time. Still, silent, ordinary. Then I noticed something carved faintly into his forearm. Letters done with surgical precision. See you soon, J. I drove home through thick fog, streetlights swimming in halos. When I parked, I looked at my wrist again. The skin pulsed once, softly, not like a heartbeat, but like someone tapping from the other side of glass. I whispered to the empty car, "You're not real." And from nowhere a voice replied, quiet, patient, loving. "Neither are you, Evan. Not anymore." The Riverton Funeral Home was built in 1931. I used to think that made it historic. Now I know that's just another word for haunted. The morning after Janine's visit, I found the back door unlocked. It shouldn't have been possible. I'd sealed it myself, double-bolted, checked twice before leaving. But when I came in, the cold air from the river had already flooded the hall. The tiles were slick, the lights dim. The building felt different, heavier, like something was breathing through the walls. The smell hit first, not death, dirt. Wet old dirt, the kind that fills your nose and coats your tongue. Then I saw the footprints, bare, faint, and leading down the back hallway toward the storage wing, a part of the building we hadn't used in years. The storage corridor had always been off-limits. The owner said the foundation had cracked in the 1980s flood and was unsafe. But the lock on the door was new. Heavy, industrial, too new for a room nobody used. The footprints stopped there. I should have walked away. Instead, I pulled the spare key from the pegboard, the one marked sub-basement, which I'd never seen used in the 5 years I'd worked there. The lock turned easily. The door groaned open, releasing a gust of cold that smelled like wet concrete and old electricity. A staircase led down. The light switch didn't work. My flashlight flickered across narrow cement walls streaked with dark water lines. The stairs descended farther than they should have. At the bottom, another door. No handle, just rusted hinges and a single brass plate that read flood hold. I pressed my ear to the wood. Nothing. Then faintly tapping. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Then silence. The same rhythm I'd heard from inside my wrist. When I forced the door open, the smell nearly made me gag. Not decay, not exactly. Something older. The room was enormous, easily the size of the chapel upstairs. The air was wet, humming faintly. My flashlight swept across rows of metal drawers embedded in the walls, each labeled by year. 1953, 1954, 1955. Some drawers were sealed. Others hung open, revealing nothing inside. But the floor moved. A shallow layer of water rippled across the concrete. Beneath it, shapes shifted, dark, smooth, half-submerged. I thought they were stones until I noticed the hair floating around them. Bodies, dozens, some still in burial clothes, others stripped to the skin. Their faces blurred by years underwater, but intact enough to see their mouths were open, not in screams, but in waiting. My flashlight beam caught something glinting in the far corner, a polished metal table, cleaner than everything else down here. On it sat surgical tools laid out in perfect rows. A mirror hung above it, cracked but spotless. And standing in front of the mirror was Janine. She wasn't wearing the hoodie anymore. She wore a white apron, the same kind I wore when working. The flesh along her collarbone was tearing again, threads splitting where the body was starting to rot. "You found it," she said softly. "What is this?" She looked around the room almost fondly. "The first layer, before you, before Christopher, before all of us." I took a step closer. "All of who?" "The borrowers," she said simply. We've been here longer than the home itself. They built on top of us, thought they could hide us under concrete and prayer. Her eyes met mine in the flashlight's beam. We keep what's left. I turned the light toward the water again. The faces beneath it had changed. They weren't strangers anymore. They were mine. Every person I'd embalmed, preserved, painted, and prayed over, all staring up at me through the water, lips moving in silent unison. You fixed us. My throat went dry. Stop. Janine tilted her head. You hear them now, don't you? You've been hearing them for weeks. Every breath, every whisper under the pump. They remember you. I'm not one of you. She stepped closer. Not yet. I stumbled backward into the drawers. Metal clanged. My flashlight fell into the water and the room went black except for the faint light reflecting off her eyes. She whispered, "Do you know why you never quit, Evan? Why you always come back?" "Because this is my job." I said. "No," she said, "because this is your calling, because part of you knows what we are and part of you wants it. You envy the stillness, the silence, the perfect control." Her voice deepened, layered with others, male, female, something crawling through her words. "It's not corruption, Evan, it's inheritance." Something touched my ankle. Cold, thin fingers rose from the floodwater, gripping my leg with quiet strength. Then another hand. Then another. They weren't trying to pull me down, they were offering. Janine extended her hand too, palm up, trembling slightly. "We don't die," she said. "We move, we pass the light along, and you've already opened the door." "I didn't open anything," I said, but even as I spoke I knew it was a lie. Every stitch, every incision, every whisper over a corpse had been a key turning. The hand squeezed gently, almost pleading. "Join us," she said. The air thickened with whispers. "Steady hands, steady hands, steady." Then something in me snapped, not courage, just desperation. I grabbed the scalpel from the nearest tray and slashed at the hands around my legs. The water turned pink, then red, then clear again. The fingers released me one by one. Janine flinched as though she'd been cut too. "Evan, don't. Stay away," I shouted. She stepped back, expression soft with sorrow. "You'll come back," she said quietly. "You always come back." Then she vanished, not faded, not fled, vanished, like a reflection wiped from glass. I scrambled up the stairs, slammed the door, and locked it. My lungs burned. The silence upstairs felt worse than the noise below. When I checked the main breaker panel, all the circuits for the basement were labeled differently now. Not storage wing, not flood hold, just a single handwritten word, house. That night I couldn't sleep. The air in my apartment smelled like the mortuary, damp, chemical, faintly citrus. I turned on the sink to wash my hands. The water came out brown at first, then clear, and floating in it a small scrap of paper, perfectly dry. I pulled it out carefully. One line of handwriting, looping, elegant, impossible to misread. "The house remembers you, Evan. Come home soon, J." I turned off every light, sat in the dark, and listened to the pipes breathing under my floor. They pulsed, once, twice, then tapped, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, exactly like a heartbeat. And I realized the worst thing of all. It wasn't coming from below. It was coming from inside the walls. The funeral home wasn't always called Riverton Memorial. Old records listed another name, Hale and Sons Mortuary, established 1931. My last name, my family's name. I found the ledger in a broken filing cabinet in the office, the one no one ever opened because the drawers jammed halfway. It was bound in cracked leather, embossed with gold letters that time had almost erased. Inside, the pages were full of names written in fountain pen, dates of death, embalming times, notes in my grandfather's handwriting, and near the back a section marked with black ink instead of blue, special handling. My father's name was written there 5 times. He'd worked here long before I did, back when it was still family-owned. He never talked about it much. Whenever I asked, he'd smile, pat my shoulder, and say, "Some things are better left buried." I thought he was being poetic. Now I think he was being literal. The special handling entries didn't list services or burials. They listed locations. Flood hold, lower chamber, sublevel 3. Some even mentioned names I'd seen before: Dalton, Monroe, Janine. It wasn't just storage, it was a catalog. And every entry was signed with a symbol instead of a signature, a circle intersected by a vertical line like a keyhole. That night I dreamed of my father. He stood in the prep room, wearing the same white coat I wore every day. The lights above him flickered between color and shadow, and when I tried to speak, he raised a finger to his lips. "Steady hands," he said. "You got that from me." I tried to reach for him, but he stepped back into the darkness. You can't fix what you were built to become. Then I woke up to the sound of knocking. 3 slow knocks, not at the door, from inside the wall. The drywall behind my bed had warped slightly, a bulge running vertically like a vein. I pressed my hand against it. It pulsed once faintly. The whisper came through like breath through insulation. "Evan, open it." I froze. "No, you've already opened worse." The plaster cracked, flaking under my fingers. Something beneath it moved, pushing outward. A single sliver of paper slid through the split and fell to the floor. It was a photograph, my father, standing in front of the funeral home decades ago. He was younger, smiling, arm around another man, my grandfather. Behind them, barely visible in the photo's exposure, was a shape in the window, tall, featureless, watching. On the back of the photo, written in his careful hand, "The house keeps us." I didn't go to work that morning. I went to my father's grave instead. The snow had half covered the headstone. Robert Hale, 1947–2018, beloved father, devoted craftsman. I brushed the snow away and placed the photograph on the stone. "What did you do?" I whispered. "What did you give them?" The wind shifted. A hollow sound rose from the ground, not quite a voice, but close enough to form words. "I gave them what they asked for." I stumbled backward. "Dad." The soil trembled just once, then stillness. But when I looked down again, the photograph was gone. Only a dark, wet patch remained where it had been, shaped like a handprint. Back at the funeral home, the lights in the hallway flickered erratically, one by one, leading me toward the prep room. The door was open, and Janine was waiting. She sat on the steel table, barefoot again, legs crossed neatly, a faint smile on her lips. Her skin looked paler, more translucent. Veins like silver threads glowed faintly beneath it. "You found the book," she said. I didn't answer. "Your family built this place for us," she continued. "They didn't just work with death, they curated it. They understood the trade, a house above to honor the living, a house below to feed the rest." I gripped the edge of the counter to keep from shaking. "Why me?" "Because you were born into it." She tilted her head. "The borrowers need caretakers, hosts to tend the bridge between what breathes and what doesn't. It's all inheritance, Evan. You just never signed the papers." "Then take someone else." She smiled sadly. "We don't choose blood, it chooses us." I tried to back away, but my legs locked. The air thickened, vibrating like static. Janine stood and walked toward me, leaving faint footprints on the tile. "You think you're fighting us," she said, "but you've already joined. Every time you restored one of them, you gave a little more of yourself. Every incision, every touch, every whisper, that's the price of steady hands." The light overhead flickered, and for a moment she wasn't Janine anymore. She was me, same eyes, same face, same bandage on the wrist. "I'm you when the work is done," she said, "the part that doesn't get tired." I reached for the drawer where I kept the syringes. "You can't have me." She smiled wider. "You say that like you still belong to yourself." The floor beneath us groaned. The drain at the center of the room began to bubble, water rising, dark and thick like ink. The walls vibrated, a deep, slow heartbeat pulsing through the building. Then faintly I heard other voices rising from below. Men, women, whispering together, low and rhythmic. "Steady hands, open the gate. Steady hands, open the gate." Janine looked toward the drain. "They're calling, it's almost time." I grabbed the formaldehyde injector and pressed it against her throat. "You're not taking me down there." Her eyes glowed. "You don't have to come down, Evan. The house is coming up." The drain erupted. Black water shot upward, splashing across the room. Faces formed in it, momentary, translucent, before dissolving back into the flood. The lights blew out. Something moved beneath the floor, heavy and wet, crawling toward us. Janine leaned close, whispering through the chaos. "Your father promised we'd keep you safe. You're the last Hale. The house needs you." I shoved her backward into the flood. "Then it's going to starve." The moment her body hit the water, it froze solid, mid-motion, mid-breath, a perfect statue of ice and shadow. The whispers stopped. The drain went silent. I stood alone in the darkness, panting, soaked to the bone. Then faintly from the frozen surface, her voice, distant, muffled. "See you soon, Evan," in the family room. When I left the funeral home, dawn was breaking over the river. The sunlight looked strange, too pale, too thin. And for the first time I noticed that my reflection in the glass door didn't follow when I turned away. It stayed, watching, smiling. The next morning I got a call from a number that shouldn't exist anymore. Dad's number. The caller ID still had his name, Robert Hale. My thumb hovered over the screen until it stopped ringing. When it buzzed again, I answered. "Dad," silence. Then faintly, "You left the door open." The line went dead. I drove straight to the funeral home. The building looked smaller in daylight, or maybe I was just finally seeing it for what it was, not a sanctuary, but a parasite wearing wood and stone. The front doors were ajar. Inside, the air was cold enough to frost my breath. The walls pulsed faintly as if the plumbing had a heartbeat. Something was humming below, the house. In the office, the ledger still lay open where I'd left it, but now a new entry had appeared at the bottom of the special handling list. Hale, Evan prepared. Signed with the same symbol, the circle, the keyhole. I turned the page. There were no more names, just one line written in fresh ink. Proceed to the family room. The words were shaking, my handwriting. The door to the flood hold was open again. I should have run. Instead, I followed the hum. The steps felt longer this time. The air got heavier the deeper I went, as if gravity itself thickened the closer I got to the heart of it. The flashlight beam flickered, but I didn't need it. The walls glowed faintly now, veins of light tracing along the cracks like the whole basement had come alive. At the bottom, the metal drawers were gone. The floor had split open, revealing a spiral staircase descending farther still, carved from the earth itself. And at the bottom of that, a door made of bone. A plaque above it read, "The family room." The handle was warm. When I pushed the door open, I found myself standing in what looked like a chapel, smaller, circular. The walls lined with photos and relics. My family. Generations of Hales staring down from black and white portraits. Suits, aprons, hands folded over caskets. In the center of the room stood a single embalming table, polished wood, carved with the same keyhole symbol I'd seen in the ledger. Someone was lying on it. I knew the face before I reached it, me, paler still, dressed in my own clothes. My mind rebelled, clawing for explanations, delusion, stress, carbon monoxide, anything. But the thing on the table wasn't imagination, it was solid, it breathed. A faint fog escaped its lips. Then the eyes opened. "You made it," it whispered. "I was starting to think you'd let me rot." I stumbled back. "You're not me." It smiled faintly. "No, not yet, but I will be. That's the inheritance. The Hale who comes before keeps the Hale who comes after. I'm not part of this." "You always were," it said. "The day you embalmed your first body, you finished what your father started." The walls began to move, portraits rippling, faces turning toward me. My grandfather's photo blinked. My father's smiled. Their voices overlapped, layered, echoing through the room. "We built the bridge. You are the final stone. The house is family. The family is the house." I clutched my temples, screaming for it to stop, but the sound only grew louder, dozens of voices, familiar and not, merging into one deep, slow breath. The house exhaled. The lights dimmed. The version of me on the table sat up. It studied me with something close to affection. "You've done good work, Evan. You fixed the broken, mended the forgotten. That's all we've ever done. But every craftsman needs an apprentice. I won't be yours. You already are." He stood, moving with my weight, my posture, my memories. "When your father died, I left him," he said. "I walked the bridge and waited for a better vessel. Blood recognizes blood. Then why show me this? Because you're ready, you've seen the dead walk, you've heard them whisper, you've made peace with it, that's what it takes." He extended his hand, my hand. "Come home." The portraits began to bleed, thick dark lines running down the walls, pooling at my feet. The light dimmed until the only thing visible was his face, pale, perfect, patient. I gripped the scalpel from my belt and stepped forward. "If I kill you," I said, "what happens?" He smiled. "You wake up." I drove the blade into his throat. The sound wasn't blood, it was wind, rushing out like a sigh that had waited generations. His body convulsed once, then stilled. The portraits fell silent. Then came the whisper, not from him, not from the walls, but from inside me. "Steady hands, steady hands." I dropped the scalpel. My vision blurred. My body felt too heavy, my pulse echoing through the floor. I staggered backward and fell against the table. When I opened my eyes, the room was gone. I was upstairs again, standing in the chapel. The morning sun bled through the stained glass. On the casket in front of me rested a man's body, peaceful, dressed in a dark suit. My suit. My coworkers stood around me, whispering condolences to one another. Ray put a hand on my shoulder. "You did good work, man. He looks just like you." I looked down at the casket again. The body's lips curled into a faint smile. That night, after everyone left, I stayed behind. The air in the chapel felt still again, clean. I told myself it was over, that I'd survived whatever this was. Then somewhere in the walls the pipes started tapping. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. The old rhythm, the rhythm of the house. And from the casket behind me came a whisper in my own voice. You wake up when the next one sleeps. They buried me on a Tuesday, or maybe it was Wednesday. Time moves differently when you're the one lying still. The chapel was full, they said. I don't remember it. I only remember watching it as though my eyes were open from inside the coffin, fixed behind the thin film of glass and varnish. The lid was closed, but light still reached me somehow, fractured through the seams. Voices filtered in from above, faint, rhythmic. He was a good man. Too young. Such steady hands, always that. Someone sobbed, someone laughed nervously. The sound of dirt came next, soft at first, then heavier. Each thud pushed me further away from the world, sealing me into something thick and warm. Darkness, weight, silence, and then a breath that wasn't mine. I woke up standing in the prep room. No heartbeat, no reflection in the mirror, but I was there. I could smell the disinfectant. The faint hum of the refrigeration unit. The world around me was dim, edges outlined in gray. My body, the other me, was gone. The table was clean. The tools gleamed like they'd never been used. I wasn't alone. Someone else was working, another mortician, humming quietly to herself. Blonde hair, familiar rhythm, Janine, except now she wore my coat. She didn't flinch when she noticed me. She looked up, smiled softly, and said, "You took long enough." My voice came out wrong. Hollow, like the echo inside a tin can. She tilted her head. "You're still adjusting, happens to all of us. What did you do?" "Nothing you didn't already agree to," she said gently. "You didn't die, Evan, you moved, that's the inheritance. Your old self sleeps, your new one works." I looked at my hands. They were pale, translucent. Every vein glowed faintly blue, as though embalming fluid pulsed where blood once did. "This isn't me," I whispered. "Of course it is," she said. "You were built for this. The living decay fast, but we keep what's worth keeping." I turned toward the mirror above the sink. The reflection stared back, half me, half something else. My face had softened, colorless, the edges flickering like a film reel skipping frames. Behind me, Janine's reflection didn't match her movements. Her eyes blinked a beat too late. "I want out," I said. "There's no out," she said, "only up or down." She set down the brush she was cleaning and pointed toward the drain at the center of the room. "That's where you came from, that's where all of us come from. The bridge runs both ways." "I won't go back down." "You don't have to, there's work to do up here now. Someone has to greet the next one." She handed me a file. Name, Adam Cole. Age, 27. Cause of death, occupational accident. I froze. That name, I knew it. He'd worked night security. He'd called me last month asking for a quote after his uncle passed. I never heard back. "You brought him here?" I asked. She nodded. "The house sends what it needs. We don't question it." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. I could feel something moving inside the walls again, slow, like breath, like thought. Every sound had rhythm now. Every heartbeat above ground matched one below. "Why me?" I said again, weaker this time. "Because you were born with the hands," she whispered, "and because you still believe the dead deserve beauty." I opened the file. There was a photograph paperclip to it, Adam, smiling, alive. Behind him, I noticed something strange, the faint outline of the funeral home in the background. It was the same angle as the old photo of my father and grandfather. The house had always been there, watching, waiting. "You're not preparing him for burial, are you?" I asked quietly. She smiled. "No, Evan, you are." Something inside me shifted, not pain exactly. A pull, the kind of instinct you don't think about, like breathing or scratching an itch. Before I knew it, my hand was already reaching for the tools, the brush, the powder, the sutures. My body remembered what to do even though I didn't want it to. "Stop," I muttered. "Stop." Neen stepped closer. "You can't fight the work. You made the promise every embalmer makes to restore what time steals, but you forgot who collects the payment." I pressed my hands to my temples. "This isn't restoration, it's replacement." She smiled softly. "And what's the difference, really?" The air grew colder, the lights dimmed. From the far wall I heard the drawer slide open, slow, deliberate, the sound of steel against steel. Inside was a body bag. It wasn't Adam. It wasn't anyone I'd seen before. The tag read reserved, my name underneath it. Janine watched me calmly. "The old you isn't gone yet. You'll need to tend to him first. Every hail does, make sure the work is perfect. I'm not doing this. You already started, she said. Remember, my vision blurred, the room shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't standing anymore, I was looking up. Janine's face hovered above me, calm and focused. She was humming the same tune from the hallway, the one I could never place. She dabbed powder along my jaw, smoothing the skin, my skin. My body lay beneath her hands. I was back inside it. She leaned close, whispering, "Steady hands, Evan, you're almost done." When I opened my eyes again, I was standing over the table. The body was still, the makeup perfect, the stitches invisible. I'd finished the work, but when I turned to the mirror, the reflection staring back wasn't mine anymore. It was smiling wider than I ever could. And behind it, through the glass, I saw rows of faces, hundreds of them watching. Every body I'd ever touched, every name in the ledger, all whispering together. You wake up when the next one sleeps. That night the funeral home phone rang. I didn't need to check the caller ID. Riverton Memorial, I said. A pause, then a man's voice, young, nervous, familiar. "Hi, I'm calling about arrangements. My name's Adam Cole. They reopened the funeral home 2 weeks after my death. New sign, fresh paint, same bones underneath. Riverton Family Services, it said now, because nothing sells better than the word family." I didn't tell them I was still here. They wouldn't have believed it anyway. By day, I walked the halls. People saw me, but they didn't see me, eyes glazed over, smiles polite like their brains skipped a frame every time they tried to focus on me. They called me the new director. They shook my hand. It was always cold. They never mentioned it. At first, I thought I was pretending, that I was playing human. But the motions came so naturally, clipboard, checklist, condolences. Every time a new family came in, I knew exactly what to say before they said anything. Their grief was predictable now, a rhythm I could follow without effort. The house whispered through the pipes, helping me choose the right words, the right tone, the right lie. "We'll take care of everything. Your loved one will be at peace. It's all part of the process." They believed every word, they always do. The first family I helped after I came back was a mother and daughter. The father, Adam Cole, had died in an industrial accident. He'd fallen into a vat of solvent, body half dissolved by the time they found him. I didn't need the paperwork to recognize the name. I'd already prepared him once, a room between worlds. Now he was really here, flesh, bone, silence. When they left, the mother grabbed my hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "You make it easier." Her touch lingered, warm, human. It didn't feel good, it felt hungry. After hours, I wandered the chapel. The lights hummed softly. The portraits on the walls had changed again, new faces, new smiles, all familiar. Some nights I'd sit in the front pew and talk to the air. "I didn't ask for this," I'd say. The house always answered. "No one asks for a heartbeat either, they just live it." The voice wasn't one anymore, it was a chorus. Men, women, my father, Janine, all layered into one patient, endless tone. "The living come here to forget, the dead come here to remember, you keep the door open." Sometimes I found notes on my desk in handwriting that wasn't mine. "Remember the balance, keep the flow steady. The living room is the bridge." It took me days to realize the living room wasn't a metaphor. It was literal, the upstairs lounge, where families waited during services. Except now, when I passed by that room at night, I could hear faint conversation, low, steady, like people waiting for someone to arrive. Only the lights were off, and the chairs were empty. One night I stayed late to listen. The clock struck midnight. The hum in the walls deepened, turning into a pulse. I stood outside the living room door and waited. The voices grew clearer. "He was so young. At least he looks peaceful. They always look peaceful here." I opened the door slowly, empty, but not quiet. Every chair had an impression in its cushion, like someone had just stood up. The air smelled faintly of perfume and cologne, fresh, human, impossible. In the center table sat an open photo album. The pictures were mine, my clients, my family, me. The last page was blank except for a note written in the same ink as the ledger downstairs. "The living wait for their turn." I closed the album, and the room exhaled. The lights flickered on, revealing figures seated in every chair, pale, motionless, hands folded neatly, the ones from the photographs. Every person I'd prepared, dressed in their burial clothes. They weren't corpses now, they were guests. Janine sat among them, smiling faintly. "Welcome home," she said. "You're the host tonight." "What is this?" "The living room," she said. "The in-between, they come here before they are remembered, before they are truly gone." I looked around. They shouldn't be here. Neither should you. One of them, an older woman I remembered from a car crash last year, raised her head. Her mouth opened, voice thin and hollow. You promised us peace. I gave you peace, I said. No, she whispered. You gave us pause. The others murmured agreement. The air thickened with their words, not angry, just tired. Janine stood. They're not angry at you, Evan. They're waiting for direction. You're the bridge now. Show them where to go. I don't know how. She touched my chest just over where my heart used to be. You do, it's instinct. The room darkened again, except for the faint golden light spilling through the stained glass windows. The figures turned toward me, expectant, patient. For a moment I understood. This was the role, the inheritance, the purpose. I closed my eyes and spoke without knowing the words. Follow the quiet, remember what you were, let the noise fade. The voices softened, merging into a single sigh. One by one they stood, faded, vanished, leaving only empty chairs and the smell of lilies. When I opened my eyes, the room was empty again. Janine was gone. I stood there for a long time. The stillness didn't feel like peace, it felt like maintenance, like turning off a light in an endless hallway. The next morning, new flowers arrived for service, a fresh body in the prep room, and a new note on my desk. You did well. Another bridge opened soon. Signed only with a circle intersected by a vertical line, the keyhole. That night, I dreamed of my father again. He stood at the end of the chapel aisle, smiling. Behind him, hundreds of doors lined the walls, each one marked with a name I'd touched. He said, "It's not about saving them, it's about keeping the way open." Then he pointed toward the front pew toward me. Your turn's coming again, son. The living room never stays empty for long. I woke up sitting in that same pew, hands folded, clothes pressed. The sunlight through the stained glass felt warm on my face. And for the first time since I died, I realized I could hear something new through the floorboards, footsteps. Real, heavy human footsteps. Someone was upstairs. Someone living, coming to plan a service. I smiled, straightened my tie, and whispered to the house. Send them in. 3 months after my death, the papers arrived. Officially, the state had appointed me Director of Operations for Riverton Family Services. Unofficially, no one remembered signing anything. The board congratulated me in an email chain that had no sender. The county records listed my name beside a date that hadn't happened yet. I should have cared. I didn't. Business was good, too good. We opened a second branch across the river, Lakeside Family Care. Same model, same daycare, same quiet promise of dignity and closure. The investors were thrilled. I didn't know their names. The money came from accounts that never showed up twice. Every new location came with a blueprint already drawn. The contractors swore they'd been paid in advance. Every one of them used the same phrase, just following the plan. I never told them who wrote it. At night, I walked the halls of each new facility. The air always smelled the same, antiseptic lilies, something faintly metallic. The walls pulsed faintly under my fingertips like there was something breathing behind them. It wasn't just the house anymore. It was a network. Every embalming room, every prep station, every drain was connected not by plumbing but by something older, something living. When I stood over a body in Lakeside, I could still hear the pipes in Riverton hum in response. The house had found a way to grow. Ray visited once, just before he retired. He'd been with Riverton 30 years, longer than anyone. He found me standing in the prep room, staring at a body that hadn't arrived yet. "Business looks good," he said. "It's steady," I replied. He laughed. "It's always steady in this line of work, isn't it?" He didn't notice the drain vibrating under his feet, didn't see the small rivulets of dark water trickling toward it. "I'm proud of you, Evan," he said. "You're gonna go far." "I already have," I said softly. He clapped me on the shoulder, oblivious to how cold my skin was. When he left that night, I heard the pipes hum his name. By morning, his obituary was in my inbox. We hired new staff. The resumes came pre-approved, each one stamped with a subtle circle and line watermark, a keyhole. They all knew the procedures instinctively. How to prepare, how to mix, how to hum the rhythm that calmed the air. When I asked where they'd learned, they all said the same thing. Family tradition. The family services branding caught on fast. Other counties called, asking about franchising opportunities. They wanted to know how we kept customer satisfaction so high. I told them it was about consistency, about giving people what they expected the way they remembered it. They smiled, nodded, and took the brochures. Inside each brochure was a small black slip of paper printed with the logo, a circle intersected by a line, and a single phrase underneath. "We keep what time forgets." Janine appeared again the following month. I found her sitting in the chapel pew, legs crossed, smiling faintly. "You're doing well," she said. "Am I? The house is pleased, the bridge is stable, people are remembering the right way again." She stood, her eyes glowing faintly in the stained glass light. "But you've only built the body, it's time to give it a soul." "What does that mean?" She stepped closer, whispering, "You know how the living talk about faith. It's just repetition. Repetition becomes belief. Belief becomes structure. That's what the house feeds on." She handed me a file, new business cards, new motto: Riverton Family Foundation, grief counseling, restoration, rebirth. "We're opening outreach centers now," she said. "The living need somewhere to gather." The first session was small, 5 attendees, all recent widows or parents. I stood at the front of the dimly lit hall, reciting lines that came naturally. "We don't forget the ones we've lost," I said. "We preserve them, we keep them present, because love never leaves the body." The group nodded, teary-eyed. "Would you like to see them?" I asked. That question wasn't in the script, but it was what the house wanted me to ask. They all said yes. The next day we held a reconnection service. Dim lights, closed curtains, soft organ music. Each attendee sat before a casket, and one by one the lids opened. Their loved ones inside, calm, whole, eyes faintly glowing beneath glassy lids. They didn't move, didn't breathe, but they looked alive enough to believe. The attendees wept. Some prayed, most just whispered, "Thank you." By the end of the month, every branch was offering reconnection viewings. Then came restorative stays for clients who wanted to spend the night. We never had complaints, only requests for more time. The newspapers called it a grief therapy revolution. The government called it innovative death care. The house called it feeding time. I started seeing changes in myself too. Shadows bent toward me. Mirrors no longer reflected the room, they reflected the house. Sometimes when I blinked, I saw through other eyes, morticians across the network, repeating the same motions I did, each one humming the same soft tune, each one whispering the same phrase. "You wake up when the next one sleeps." One night, I dreamed of the old ledger again. Pages turned themselves, fluttering in the dark until they stopped on a new entry. "Riverton Family Foundation prepared. The world will follow." The ink spread across the page like veins. I felt the house breathing through me, through every branch, through every home where grief still lingered. We'd built the bridge. Now the living were crossing it. When I woke, there was a note on my desk. No handwriting this time, just embossed letters pressed into the paper from underneath. "Director Hale, the network is ready for activation. Proceed to the viewing." Signed only with a single mark, a circle, a line, a keyhole. The invitations went out a month in advance. Gold-trimmed envelopes, heavy paper, embossed with the Riverton Family Foundation seal, the circle intersected by a vertical line. The tagline beneath it read, "Because love never leaves the body." Every major city got one: church leaders, funeral directors, government officials, psychologists, news outlets, and ordinary families handpicked by the house. The return address wasn't Riverton. It was a place that didn't exist, the Continental Mortuary, gate level. On the morning of the event, I stood before a crowd of over 300 guests inside the newly built Riverton Hall, our largest chapel yet. It was modeled after a cathedral, white marble floors, towering pillars, and a skylight that stretched the length of the ceiling. At the center stood a single glass viewing chamber, circular, sealed, glowing softly from within. Inside it rested dozens of bodies, perfectly preserved. Men, women, children, arranged in careful symmetry, their faces peaceful, their eyes faintly open. The living filled the pews, whispering prayers. The air shimmered like a mirage. I stepped to the podium. The microphone crackled, but my voice carried effortlessly. "Today," I began, "we gather not in grief, but in continuity. To honor what the living forget, that life and death are not opposites, but partners." House's hum vibrated through the floor, rising in sync with my words. "They taught us to bury love, to hide it away under stone and soil. But what if we could keep it? What if memory had a pulse?" The crowd was still hypnotized. Even the cameras had stopped clicking. Behind me, the glass chamber began to glow brighter. The bodies stirred, not moving, just breathing. Gasps rippled through the room. A woman in the front row reached for the glass, tears spilling down her face. "That's my husband," she whispered. That's oh God, I smiled gently, he's home. The chamber's light deepened to gold. The faint sound of heartbeats echoed through the hall, not human but synchronized, mechanical, like the hum of an unseen engine. I felt it in my ribs, in my jaw, in the marrow of my hands, steady hands. The house whispered through me now, directly into the microphone. Every heart is a door, every memory a bridge. We are the keepers of both. I looked at the crowd, their faces pale, transfixed, their pupils reflecting the golden light. The hum in the floor had become a pulse that matched theirs. I extended my arms. Would you like to see them again? They all said yes, every voice in unison. The chamber glass began to dissolve, not break, not open, just melt away like frost under sunlight. The air smelled of lilies and iron. The bodies inside sat up, slowly, gracefully, perfectly synchronized. Some of the guests screamed, but most didn't. Most were silent, hypnotized, reverent, ready. The resurrected turned their heads toward their loved ones, smiling faintly. Their lips moved, though no sound came. The hum of the house filled the silence. The living room welcomes you home. The living stepped forward. Some reached through the mist, trembling hands touching cold faces. Others simply knelt, overcome, and then it happened. The light shifted, golden to white, soft to blinding. Every person who touched their dead loved one froze mid-motion. Their skin turned pale, veins faintly blue, not dead, not alive, just paused. The air thickened with static. I could feel the pulse expand outward through the pews, through the walls, into the streets beyond. The house was spreading. Janine appeared beside me, her form flickering like candlelight. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Can you feel it?" I nodded. "They're merging." "It's always like this the first time," she said softly. "The living offer memory, the dead offer stillness. The house binds them both." Her voice trembled with awe. "You've done what none of us could, you've made them believe. What happens now?" She smiled, the kind of smile that made you forget to breathe. "Now everyone belongs somewhere." Outside, the sky had changed. The clouds hung too low, heavy with color that didn't exist before, like marble and ash swirling together. Cars stopped mid-street. People stood still, their faces tilted upward, eyes reflecting gold. I could hear them whispering the same words I'd spoken inside. "Because love never leaves the body. Because love never leaves the body." Over and over in perfect rhythm until it became song. The living were remembering. The dead were listening. In the control booth above the chapel, I saw the technicians, faces slack, eyes glowing. Their cameras kept recording, broadcasting everything live. Screens in hospitals, police stations, churches, homes, all flickering with the same image. The reconnection ceremony, the living and the dead reunited. The world wasn't watching a miracle, it was joining one. By nightfall, the house had grown roots beneath every building that carried our seal. The drains pulsed with faint golden light. The hum reached every pipe, every wire, every breath. Janine stood by my side, watching the world shift. "The bridge is open," she said. "You've done your part." "And you?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "I was just the usher." Touched my chest, and for the first time since I died, I felt my heart beat. Once, twice, then stop again. The lights dimmed. The resurrected bodies stood motionless, their work done. In the silence, I heard a door open somewhere deep below the building, a long, slow creak like something ancient finally awake. I looked to the podium, the microphone flickered. "Director Hale," the house said through me, calm and final. "Prepare the world for the last service." I smiled. The house wasn't a place anymore. It was everywhere. They say the world ended quietly. No fire, no flood, just stillness, like an exhale that never turned back into breath. It started with the clocks. They stopped ticking on the morning of the last service. Not broken, just finished. Time itself had become embalmed, preserved. The streets were full of people standing in sunlight that didn't move. Their eyes shimmered faint gold, and they smiled faintly, as if remembering something they'd forgotten for years. Dead stood among them, not ghosts, not corpses, but equals, breathing together, waiting. Riverton Hall had become a temple now. The stained glass glowed from within. The air hummed like the inside of a lung, and in the center of the great chamber stood the final casket, white marble, veins of gold threading through it like lightning frozen in stone. It was mine. The nameplate read, "Evan Robert Hale, Director of Operations." Below it, in smaller letters, "Steady Hands." Janine waited beside it, dressed in the ceremonial black that all directors wore. but her eyes were no longer human clear quartz, refracting the golden light like prisms. "You've done well," she said. "The house is whole." "Is it over?" I asked. Her smile was gentle. "It doesn't end, it continues, that's the point." She gestured toward the pews. I turned and saw them. Every person I'd ever prepared, every client, every family member, every worker who'd ever touched the dead. All of them sitting quietly, hands folded, waiting for the final rite. I stepped up to the podium, the same one I'd used for my first service years ago. The microphone was gone. I didn't need one. "My name is Evan Hale," I began, "and today I will perform the final act of preservation." My voice carried through the air like heat, not spoken but understood. "The world has reached stillness. There is no decay left, no grief left to bury, no distance left between what breathes and what remembers." I paused, looking over the congregation. "Today we stop pretending to be alive." The house's hum deepened. The gold veins in the marble casket began to move, slow, liquid like blood through translucent skin. From the ceiling, fine dust rained down, flakes of plaster, ash, and light. The air tasted sweet, sterile, eternal. I placed my hand on the casket lid. It was warm, beating faintly, as though the world's last heart lay inside. "You've restored everything," the house said through the floor. "Now restore yourself." I looked at Janine. "If I go in, who remains?" She tilted her head. "The house doesn't need caretakers anymore. It remembers itself now." "And what happens to me?" "You join what you built," she said. "The bridge becomes the road." I nodded. Somewhere deep inside, I felt peace for the first time since I died. "I understand." The congregation stood as one, living and dead, a perfect mirror of devotion. Their eyes glowed faintly in unison. The hum grew to a low, resonant chord that vibrated through the bones of the earth. Janine opened the casket. Inside was nothing but white light, not empty, ready. I turned to face them all one last time. "You wake up when the next one sleeps," I said. "But now there are no more next ones." The air trembled. The walls flexed, breathing. Every picture frame in the hall, every portrait, every photo, every reflection shimmered and came alive. The faces inside blinked, smiled, whispered. "Steady hands, steady hands, steady hands." The chorus swelled until it was all I could hear. I stepped into the casket. The lid closed itself. The hum became silence. For a moment, I felt weightless, floating between the ceiling and the earth, between heartbeat and echo. My body dissolved, replaced by something vast, a shape made of memory and breath. I could see the world now all at once, every funeral home, every pipe, every still heart gently pulsing with the house's rhythm, every building that bore our seal glowing softly in the dark, each one humming the same song. Because love never leaves the body. The network was complete. Janine knelt beside the sealed casket, whispering to the air. "He's home." The golden veins spread from the floor outward, through the marble, through the streets, through the veins of the world itself, a map of light connecting every corner of the living and the dead. And somewhere within that glow, a voice, my voice, spoke through every wall, every pipe, every silent heart. "The world is preserved. The bridge holds. You wake up when memory sleeps." The house had no walls now, no address. It was everywhere, in every photograph that made you shiver, in every house where you still set the table for someone who's gone, in every heartbeat that skips when you pass a graveyard. That's us. That's me, the bridge keeper, the embalmer, the man who forgot how to die. Sometimes when the wind passes through hollow ground, it hums. That's the sound of us working. Steady hands, steady rhythm, steady love. The world isn't alive anymore. It isn't dead either. It's remembered.